Hello and welcome to the Powered by Rock podcast. I'm excited today because we have two incredible guests on our show as part of our Indie Spotlight series, which will be a recurring feature on the Powered by Rock podcast. First up, I'll be speaking to the Las Vegas-based rock band Elephante King about their music, their live performances, and some other interesting questions. You also get to hear a song from them before the end of our segment as well. After that, I'll be speaking with Denmark's own Karina Selvig, who is a writer for Dying Scene, rockfreaks.net, and New Noise magazine, as well as recently becoming a co-host over at Punk Rock Radar. So make sure to stick around to the end because both guests are fantastic and you're going to hear some great music. Welcome to Season 4 of the Powered by Rock podcast. We'll bring you the best stories in rock music with a focus on highlighting independent rock musicians and their music from all over the world. No, rock music isn't dead. It's getting better and better. It's just time for you to start paying attention again. With that said, let's get this party started.
The mountain's gonna rise and fall by me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Powered by Rock podcast. It's my pleasure to be speaking with the Vegas rock band Elephante King today. Even though the spelling is wrong, it's still pronounced Elephante King because Fez says that's how it's supposed to be spelled.
You can pronounce it however you want to.
Yeah, you know, somebody was saying like, oh, like I was listening to Elephante King the other day, and then she had a bunch of like really nice things to say about it, and I was like, I'm not going to correct her after that. Yeah. So pronounce it.
Actually, it's Elephante King. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thanks for all the compliments, but actually, no, pronounce it however you like.
Yeah. So it's pronounced Elephante King according to the band. It's spelled Elephante King, which just looks cool that way anyway. But these guys are a three-piece rock band. They're highly entertaining, alternative rock style sound that absolutely shreds and wails on all their instruments. I mean, each one of these guys individually are fantastic at their instruments. And on camera here, you can see lead singer guitarist Fez in the right side of the screen, the furthest. Oh, here, let's go this way.
Left,
that way. Furthest that way. This dude actually makes it kind of like an Olympic event out there, jumping around like he's all hopped up on Mountain Dew, like the classic line from Talladega Nights goes.
Yeah, Mountain Dew. Yeah, no, I definitely did the Dew before.
He's jumping around like a spider monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come at you like a spider monkey, Chet. But then we also have Mike West, who's a bass wizard. I mean, he's one of the funkiest bass players out there that I know. Got a smooth jazz sound, but then it works really, really well with their sound. So, and last but not least, drummer Nick Limbs coming in heavy and loud, like a mix between John Bonham and Keith Moon / I don't know, like Ringo Starr all mashed into one kind of disciple. So that's the entire band right there. But I'm glad you guys are listening to this show right now, the listeners here, because this band is excellent. And I probably think that most of you guys haven't heard of them. So if you haven't heard of them, you're going to get one song from them today, but I would highly recommend you go check out the band. And hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hello, what's going on? Thanks for having us.
So excited to be here. Look, they just got so much energy. It's early in the day. I don't know, like most of these interviews happen like a little later in the afternoon. So maybe that's why it just creeped into the afternoon right now.
Yeah. I said good morning a little bit ago, and that was a statement a little bit ago.
Yeah.
We might be tired, but we are powered by rock.
That is true. That technically you guys are powered by rock. You guys are one of the sponsored bands of Powered by Rock for the guitar cables. So, yes. And I remember because I interviewed Case and Sampson and White Noise, the band White Noise, and I'd actually asked them before we went on air. I was like, by the way, I keep forgetting to ask, but do you guys want like guitar cables and be sponsored by the brand? And they're like, fuck yeah, now I can say, take that, Fez, or whatever. He was like, I've been waiting to say, like, shove it in Fez's face. I was like, like you have a competition in your own head about getting sponsored by, a local Las Vegas company or something. That's pretty funny.
That sounds like Kason.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he did post something like that.
I think I do. I remember that. Yeah. Love that guy.
Well, let's talk about you guys, obviously. So you guys you're a pretty new band. It's been just slightly over a year that you guys have all been together, but kind of, how did you guys all come together? Because I know you guys weren't just like, hey, we've never played in a band before. Let's all three decide to get together. But what was the kind of discussion behind putting the band together? How did you guys start playing together? And what was the discussion of, like, the style of music you're going to play?
Well, Nick and I were in a band together that kind of really didn't really get off the ground. And some of the Elephante King songs, Goat, Burn It All Down, Murder, they were kind of holdovers from that band. And we started writing them in like during the practices that not everybody could make it to, right?
Yeah.
So that band kind of fell apart. Nick and I kept playing music together. That was like pre-COVID. And then post-COVID, we got together and we still had this backlog of material. So we started playing together, and we started as a duo, actually. Like the song you'll hear later today was just me and Nick, just putting layers on the track. So most of our catalog that's available right now was from when we were instrumentally just as a duo. And Nick has known Michael since
over a decade now.
Yeah.
We've been friends for a long time, but we've never been a part of a project together. And I've always wanted to be in a band with him. So once schedules lined up and we were ready to do it, he was the guy.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I think, a key between rhythm sections, right? Is like, it's great that like anyone can be plugged in at a bass and a drum and it can technically sound good, but like having a chemistry makes it even like that much more interesting when you have a bass player and a drummer who at least have known each other for a while. And then when they start playing together, it's like, there's like nothing like it. Cause I know when a bass player gets plugged into a band that's kind of already existing, it can be kind of awkward at first because like in most bands, not saying your guys' band, but in most bands, the bass lines are usually very simply created by like a drummer or a guitar player, whoever like has that ability to create those lines. And they're like, this is what you play. Here you go. Just play that. And then it's like, well, fuck, what am I here for? Like, you could just put this on a backing track or something. Right. So like, was there any kind of pressure for you, Mike, to kind of jump in the band and be like, well, I hear what you guys play, but I think I can do this? Or did you have any conversations about changing some stuff up?
Definitely a little bit of pressure, anyone can join like a project that's been together for a year and then feel that pressure. Right. So, and especially for being a bass player. Yeah, definitely. I sort of took it slow at first, just playing exactly what, just simple chord note lines, just hitting all the chord progressions and stuff. But once I started getting more comfortable with the feels and more comfortable playing with Nick again, and Fez, like, then I started adding some inflections, some different lines and stuff to kind of, one, make sure I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, but also like filling in the spaces that, we're missing. Right.
Yeah.
So now I feel like with the selection of songs that we have now, they're definitely a little bit more fleshed out than they were when I first joined and what I was playing then. So
yeah,
definitely there is a pressure, but it just the more you play, the more you practice and play together, you get over that pretty quickly.
Yeah, Mike has done a really good job at there is a lot of space, especially live, where it's just one guitar, like it's just us three.
Versus your like 6 different layers of guitars.
Yeah. I laid on thick on the track, but I can only do so much live. Mike has done a really good job. I mean, he'll play chords, you do harmonics, and he plays a 6-string sometimes when it's in working.
Yeah.
But even with the 4-string, like he does stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of. It's almost like we've got 2 lead instruments up there.
Yeah. It's not like a Blink-182 situation where it's like 2 untalented versions of the same. Like, you don't have a very good guitarist, you don't have a very good bassist, but they make good music together. So let's just do that. It's like you guys actually make good music and you're both really talented at what you do. So it's very interesting to watch that on stage. And I noticed obviously Mike's gotten a little bit more comfortable on stage. I don't know how much you performed on stage before, but it's almost like he goes in there like he's Ron Burgundy now, is like, in his cool cat outfit, and he's like got his sunglasses on and he's out there performing, and it's like, that's pretty cool. Like, I haven't seen that side, like that kind of side just started creeping out a couple months ago, which I think kind of helps with the level of comfortability with the band as well.
Yeah. I my main like job right now is I actually play on the Strip with another band, I do cover band stuff. So that's what I usually do for work. But I'm like trying to incorporate the kind of the cool side of it, right, back into the, playing the, because it's a completely different scene,
Sure.
Playing with DIY local scene, different people, different energies, right? So
yeah, he actually probably plays more shows than both of us potentially combined, because he's, you know, out there like every day. But yeah, it's such a different vibe performing with an original group where we're like trying to go for something specific versus covers. You're kind of just jamming. I feel
You're
like,
glorified
you know?
stereo, right?
Right. Yeah. So you're kind of just there to please the crowd rather than do your own thing.
You're just making drunk people happy. That's what cover bands are.
So,
I once had a friend of mine mention to me, he goes, I don't even understand why people would go watch original artists play their own music. Everything should just be cover bands. And I go, how the fuck do you think those bands knew what to play in the beginning? Somebody had to originally create that, you dumbass. And he was like, oh yeah, I guess. It was like, Jesus Christ. Just interesting how some people like view music as like, just put the stereo on. That's like, put whatever's on the radio is what you should be listening to. I'm like, these people started somewhere and it wasn't on the radio. Like, most bands or most rock pop artists don't just show up and have like a radio single, right? So it's very interesting perspective. I was like, wow, you sound dumb.
It's the product of the media and how it portrays the media, the whole career. You know, it's like,
I mean, with stuff like
one day you're nobody and then one day you're somebody, but there's never like documentation of this era.
you don't see that between.
So
but you're seeing it now.
We're grateful to be on a podcast like this to document that, because you know, we're all about the journey, and I think it's really cool to have opportunities like this as a budding artist. When you guys kind of have like your shit together in many more ways than just playing the music and performing it too, and even recording it. So you guys, as a lot of DIY musicians do, have a lot of talents in other areas surrounding the music, you know, industry or a process, I suppose. I mean, Nick, I know you do like recording and mixing and mastering and all that stuff. You guys kind of all help do like promotion and marketing and like all this other stuff to try to like grow everything. But you guys all kind of had to put in the extra effort, because now in the DIY scene, you have the ability to basically run it like a business and start it from scratch. But you also have to have some talented people around you, because not everybody can create a strong recording. I've tried to do it myself. I can do it when it's like a full band, but I fucking suck at it when I'm just doing it by myself. I'm like, if I try to record anything by myself, it sounds horrible. So it does take a high level of talent. So just talk to me about like what you guys, when you guys are, you know, putting things out there, recording music, like what's your whole process like? And what are you thinking? Like, okay, here's kind of our timeline for each thing that we want to accomplish. We want to do an album or an LP or an EP or whatever. What do you guys kind of focus on for like the goals of the band, and how do you go about doing that?
Well, with recording, I guess, I mean, you know, a lot of these songs were played live before we even touched them in the studio. There's stuff that's in our set right now that we want to put out.
I think that's definitely where it starts. Is working on stuff live. Like we'll have a song ready and then we'll play it live a good amount before it's even like discussed about if it's going to be released to begin with. That's definitely
kind of like a stand-up comedian. You want to make sure that the joke doesn't bomb before then you put it on a Netflix special, right?
I mean, there's stuff in our set that we're not ever going to release on a, you know, like the soundcheck song, like that's live only. You know what I mean? You come to a show to see that one, you know?
And if for anybody who's watching and going, what the fuck is the soundcheck song? If you don't know what a soundcheck is, you probably don't have any idea what any of this what we're talking about means. But a sound check at a concert is when you're actually going up there, and as a band that's just starting out, you don't get the, you know, 2 hours ahead of time, you know, 45 to 60 minute sound check where they go through and fine tune every knob on the dial and make sure everything's dialed in. When you do a sound check as a DIY band, you basically have to just do it at the first song, right? So like you're mostly just going up there playing and seeing if it sounds good. And you don't usually want to put like normally your best song is, or one of your best songs, one of your hyped up songs is usually the first one. So you don't want to do it on that song. So you guys actually have a sound check song that you could just basically play sound check and do a bunch of random stuff and just use that as your first song to make sure everything sounds good, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty awesome because when I put on a show, I want to say like last November, I was like you guys, Elevated Undergrounds, the Montel Jordans, and Nova Babies, I believe, was the lineup. And I was like, okay, you guys want to do a sound check? And you're like, all right. So then you started playing sound check, and I was like, that's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, it's a good introduction, I think, to the energy that we have on stage, because it's like, in between the, I don't know if we would call it serious, but like the like, the rock stuff, we're like just cracking jokes in between the songs. It's like a quarter of it is like a stand-up set, and like
or at least Fez thinks it is.
The sound check thing, I think, really represents our attitude right off the bat, but also like for me it is literally a sound check. I wrote my part so that I hit every part of the kit. I made sure that I could play the song, and then at the end of the song evaluate, okay, could I hear the bass, could I hear the guitar, could I hear the vocal, did I set my kit up right so that I'm not gonna like trip over anything, it's the first song on the set, but it's definitely a sound check, like for me personally. That's what it was intended to be.
And I would say this is actually kind of a cool trick. Me and my band in high school actually kind of did something else. We just called it intro. And another band that I knew of friends had an intro as well. We didn't use it as a sound check because we didn't have a sound guy, because we were this was the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, when you just played it wherever the fuck you were playing at, and people just showed up and turned on the instruments and you just played, right? But we used it to kind of help make sure that like we were all like our nerves were settled, like we're kind of back into the groove, like there's no singing in that song, or maybe there was like a little growling or yelling or something like that. And it was just kind of nice to like start that way. So if you are in a local band, an independent DIY band, and you don't want to just go out there and like burn up a really good song in the set and have it all fucked up from mic feedback or something, get yourself a sound check song.
Yeah, definitely. I recommend it. I'm really happy with it. And it's also at DIY shows, especially, there's usually a lot of people scattered. They're not like, it's not like a traditional venue where you show up 30 minutes before and everyone's all in the same spot already. So when you come out on stage, everyone's there. Usually, you might be at a house show or something. There's people inside, there's people out front, there's people out back. So that short, like it's like a 1.5, 2 minute long sound check song, like that signifies to everybody like, all right, the show's starting, and then we play our song. That's the start of the set.
Exactly right. So let's talk about the influences that you guys have, because I'm sure that just knowing your guys' individual styles and sounds, you guys have probably a pretty varied range of influences from your musical careers and backgrounds. But what would you say are some of the comparisons and influences that you would say fit for Elephant King, and how do you guys work your guys' individual influences to get that sound?
For me, I was guitar-wise, I was, I guess in general music-wise, I was really influenced by like 70s rock. Like Jimmy Page is probably one of my favorite guitar players, Slash too. So when I'm playing, I kind of emulate some of that. I feel like in reality in this band, I kind of play a lot more aggressively. So I play more with like a White Stripes feel, with the technicality of like, somebody like Jimmy Page, I guess. Is what I guess try to go for. I can't pull back the trying to strum super hard, and like even my guitar tech says like I'm like, you pick way too hard, dude. But I can't help it.
Shut up and do your job. Don't tell me how to play.
Yeah, I mean he has a point, because I was breaking strings left and right. But that's kind of how I approach it. Vocally, those are always kind of like secondary to me, I guess, as far as my influences, because I'm always listening to guitar-based rock. But I think the fact that I listen to the style of rock where it's like higher vocals, I try to reach that, even though like that's not necessarily where my range is at. So I'm always like belting and about to pass out on stage and stuff like that.
I always tell people, if you want to hit a higher note, just sing louder.
Yeah. Your turn.
Man, spitting that Celsius all over me.
Sorry, just your turn now. Go.
As a drummer, I definitely pull the most from 90s grunge. One of my favorite drummers of all time is Dave Grohl. Second to that is, funny enough, Taylor Hawkins. Similar, group of musicians, but I really like keeping things as simple as I can, so that I can just beat the living shit out of the drums. But also, we have a very technical guitarist, a very technical bassist, and I feel like in a lot of ways I have to kind of dial that back a little bit by just keeping that keeping the beat and making sure that everything is simplistic to the common listener. And I'm kind of always thinking of that first. I'm capable of more than what I do in Elephant King, but I choose to play a certain way for Elephant King because that's what I like, and that's what I like watching. I'm always kind of like performance first in my brain, so that I like power behind the drum set. So that's what I reach for. Drummers like Dave Grohl, they're just hair everywhere, just nothing but pure passion and smiles, and that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I think that comes out, and I think it was Buddy Rich, old drummer. Most drummers know who Buddy Rich is. Most musicians kind of know who Buddy Rich is, but I think it was he who had a conversation with like Larry King or something, and he was saying like basically the drummer is the leader of the band, and everybody's like, wait a second, no, the leader of the band's obviously the lead guitarist or the singer or something like that. And he basically explained it as such, like if the drummer isn't the one kind of orchestrating like how the performance is going to go, like the rest of the band's going to be flat. Like if the drummer's out there just kind of playing like whatever, the rest of the band's not going to pick up the energy, right? So it's like up to the drummer to dictate the pace, the energy, all that shit of the show. So they're kind of like the orchestrator.
Definitely.
Even if all the production and direction beforehand was done from another member of the band, it's like once you start playing on stage, it's the drummer. And he was like, if you don't have a drummer that fits that band, get yourself a new band or get yourself a new drummer. Cause he's like, that is like the first key of any band is having the drummer being the person who dictates what's going on in the live show. So I agree. When I watch you, even when you're not like technically playing anything, you'll just be sitting there like, like, just like doing something in the background, trying to like pump everybody up. So do a great job. And then obviously, Mike, what kind of some influences you had and where are you drawing inspiration from trying to inject it into Elephant King?
Definitely a lot of like 70s and 80s prog rock, Rush for sure. Yes, Dream Theater, those kind of guys, like odd time signatures all the way, very crazy riffs, not conventional music, right? That sort of thing.
Like, Nick, hurry up and get some Neil Peart stuff down. Let's go.
That's really what drove me into playing bass in the first place. I saw Rush in 2008, I think. And I told my dad, like, give me a bass, please, like right now, just learning Rush riffs all day, every day. And from there, went to school for jazz studies, a lot of jazz, Latin music, funk, like that whole world just opened up for me from there. So then it was just a combination of both, bringing me into where I am now. And then for this band, like trying to, like, I feel like all three of us have, we all have completely different styles of music, and it all comes together into one like cohesive thing. Right. So yeah, just a lot of progressive stuff I really enjoy. And even nowadays, like one of my number ones is King Gizzard. Those guys from Australia like are taking progressive to a whole new level in the modern day. And that's just like right up my alley for sure. Even like Animals as Leaders, like anything that you wouldn't really hear on the radio, I guess. Yeah. Is, like the real creative stuff is what I draw from.
It's funny because you mentioned King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and I remember like when they first came out, and I was like, this shit's rocking. And then they got to the point like the last couple albums where it's like everything is so fucking weird. I'm like, I don't even know what's a song anymore. Like what's happening in this music? Yeah. But I mean, they're like adding like 3-minute theremin solos and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I don't understand what I'm listening
Yeah,
to.
they're real advocates of like every album is a completely different thing, and I really am about that. You know, art is always fluid and changing, and good art, in my opinion, is divisive, right? Like there's going to be some albums you like, some albums you don't, for many artists, you know, and that should be a good thing. That should be celebrated.
Yeah, if you like every album, it's probably because they're making the exact same thing, which is probably not a great thing for
Right,
creativeness. Yeah.
I mean, and if they do that, that's fine. But like, it's good to always be pushing forward and trying new things, you know, not being too attached to what you created last year, always thinking ahead. That's kind of one of my
those fuckers put out like 9 albums in 1 year, I think, 1 year. So it's like they're just constantly putting out stuff. I'm like, how the fuck do you have this much time to make music? But good on them. Like, I wish I had that much time just to make music, but anyway.
Right. Same.
Yeah. So I want to ask you guys a couple of questions about you guys, but obviously about kind of the scene in general. I'm just curious, like, out of all the shows you guys have played, and you probably played, I don't know, 50 shows, maybe probably less than 100 as Elephant King anyway. But what's the best show you guys have played so far, and why was it awesome?
Oh, I think we all know. Oh.
Well, okay. I think we have an answer, but we probably have 2 answers, one for Vegas and then one for out of town.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
For Vegas, the space.
Yeah, February 3rd for White Noise's release show.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
That was a fun one.
We probably had the most fun there, and the space is an awesome venue.
Yeah,
we love playing there.
Yeah.
But our second answer, not in Vegas, was our show in Sacramento when we went on tour last September.
Yeah.
That was just, I don't know, just good vibes.
There was a lot that led up to that moment, a whole story that we won't get into now, but we had a whole tour planned. A lot of things got changed, canceled. We kind of burned some bridges here and there, but it all coalesced into that show in Sacramento where everything just went right. The crowd was great. All the bands were great. Everyone was super nice. Even down to the weather, everything was just it was a great day all around. And like, I don't know, we all walked away from that like as high as life, like just feeling great, you know?
Yeah.
That for me was really special.
Yeah, that was a great show because it was, completely different city, different scene. Like the bands all got along. The venue was super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I know normally most of the time you guys play, you don't get along with all the bands on the
what was the name of the venue? Cafe Colonial.
Yeah,
in Sacramento. Yeah, that was a really cool spot. I highly recommend anybody go there and check it out. It was it was also great because we weren't making much money on that tour at all, and we pretty much made all of our gas money from that one show.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was like just a big relief in so many ways. I mean, even our the person who booked that tour for us or helped book the tour, they got contact from that show. Their name's Prudence. They're working with a band called Mom Cars now. And now they're really good friends and working on stuff all the time. So it's like that one show led to just a lot of really good feelings, and I think really connected us as a band.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure there'll be a mini documentary of it coming soon.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, that was fun. That was a great show. The local one was fun because I mean, pretty much the same reasons. Like, like everyone got along. We at February 3rd at the space. I mean, we all knew each other. We all kind of just, it was like a big hang, you know what I mean? And like the show was like almost secondary, but the show happened to be like awesome. You know?
I felt like that show was one of the first times for me that there was multiple bands in the green room and we're all just friends, just hanging out. Like it was just a big party and, oh, it's your time to play. Go on, kill it. And then you come back, everyone's back to hanging out. And it was just a good hang.
Yeah, nice.
Reverend Guitars embodies the idea that every run of scorching lead and every roll of finger-picked twang deserve the same passion and commitment to quality. Whether you're selling out arenas or playing in your living room, we know that what makes an instrument powerful is when players wield them to create something remarkable. A melody that moves mountains, a riff that just won't quit. We want to be there in your hands when that happens. For us, that means staying true to what we believe. Somewhere along the road of electric guitar history, it became a crazy idea that guitar makers should craft guitars with the same sense of purpose and passion, whether they're played in a bedroom or an arena. If that's a wild idea, then we're in the right place, carrying 6 strings and an attitude, and we're in good company. Reverend Guitars. Well played.
And I was going to say, now that you've mentioned how you get along with bands and how many of them you like, I want to ask you to name your top 3 favorite local Vegas rock bands right now. You just take one each, and then that way it'll be the easiest for you. So.
Oh, Pure Sport.
God.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. Yeah, Pure Sport. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Post NC.
Okay.
That's a good one. There's so many.
Yeah. A lot of really great dudes. And chicks, sorry. Really great people.
Fellas. All inclusive.
Yeah.
I gotta shout some love out to my boys in White Noise. They just like, they're great, man. I love all of them. I've worked with them with photo shoots and stuff too. Like, I helped put their album cover together, did the shoot for that. Like, those guys are so supportive, and like, I love them.
Yeah, they do a lot of the scene.
Yeah.
Kaysen's a great video editor too.
He does graphic design, video editing, pretty much everything. So yeah, I mean, when I say like there's a lot of local talent here, I'm not just even talking about the bands playing great music. Like you guys, like photography, recording, like everything. Like there's people that in this scene have literally had to try to do everything and become really good at it, because there's not like a plug and play system where you can say, hey, look, I want this done, and somebody can do it for a price that's affordable, right? So you have to learn how to do a bunch of that stuff yourself.
It's kind of how you got to do it now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no labels out there growing bands from the start either.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, it really depends on your outlook.
Yeah.
It gives everybody kind of equal footing, and so like the faster you can get good at it, the more you can kind of stand out too. So that's nice. So let's talk about, you guys have obviously released some music as of already, like since the beginning of your band. Notably, I want to talk about the song Murder, because it's a pretty dark song. It reminds me of a band that one of my favorite bands called Toadies would write, or something like that, because it's one of them just disturbing, like, the song's called Murder, and you might not necessarily understand just from the lyrics that it's obviously a murder song, but the title pretty much gives it away. But the violence is kind of only implied within the last 2 lines of the song. But from what I understand, from what I read into it, it's basically about a woman stranded on a highway. She gets picked up, and that leads to her being abducted and essentially murdered. Is that pretty much what the song is about?
I guess that's kind of it was a movie that inspired the lyrics.
Okay.
The movie was 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so in the movie, the movie kind of surrounds the actual crime, so you don't actually see it happen. But I saw the movie, and it kind of like, I liked how it didn't really show you what happened, So that got me thinking, like, I was like, was she like walking down, whatever. Like the whole thing in the movie is that like her mom wouldn't give her a ride somewhere, and like so that's like part of like there's like her guilt with that and all that stuff, whatever. Like she didn't have a ride that night, like that's where that line comes from, like call all your friends, no one gives you a ride, whatever. That's what inspired the lyrics. But I feel like the meaning has kind of changed as of late. I mean, it's kind of, that's what inspired the lyrics, but I do feel like you can apply it to really anything. Like it's open-ended enough to where you can, the way I interpret it now is kind of like, you're kind of searching for something, thinking you need something, but you can't find it, and then like you turn to the wrong thing. And like the last couple lines, like, I handed over my innocence at last, my luck has passed, or whatever the fuck I say.
I don't remember my goddamn lyrics. I'm not playing.
I don't. Well, I can kind of remember them. But you hand over your innocence, and then you start going down the wrong path, and it's kind of like a spiral. And the way the key changes that happened over the guitar solo was kind of like a descent into like hell. You know what I mean? That's kind of my interpretation of the song. Like as though I'm like someone, as though I didn't write it, but yeah, yeah. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, that's interesting because I mean, it does give a pretty good narrative, like the kind of chronologically happens as well. But yeah, as you're talking about, like with a lot of songs and songs that I even write, I try to create like a dual, at least emotion or like potentially another meaning for the song. So like if you have it from a different perspective, you would have this kind of a narration. If you had it from this perspective, you'd have this kind of narration. So I definitely get what you mean by like the meanings kind of change and the interpretation can mean slightly different things, but essentially it's that that darkness, right? That macabre kind of feeling, like even throughout the song, like the way the music's written, you're not really feeling very happy, even though you guys still rock the fuck out of the song and live, like people aren't like, this is fucking depressing. If they were listening to what you were saying, they might, but because you guys are rocking it out, they don't probably even notice what the lyrics are about. Right.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just part of the Elephant King magic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We throw on a dark song, but make you feel good.
Yeah.
I actually do feel like that really represents us as a band. Like we have these heavy riffs. We really lay into our instruments. But we're just goofy dudes. Like we're not really like, I don't know. We're not like emo. You know, we'll go on stage dressed in like bright colors. This guy will wear tie-dye on tie-dye.
Yeah.
Well, he won't even wear clothes at sometimes, but
yeah. Some points the clothes come off.
Yeah. But I think I don't know. There's just a good balance. We try to do both.
Yeah.
It's hard to go up there. It's a challenge to go up there for me and not smile and have a good time, because there's really nowhere else I'd rather be. Nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up about Murder is that was the first track that we had Michael on.
Nice.
So those bass lines are all Westlake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mike, did you want to extrapolate on that? How do you feel about the key of the song?
The key is great.
Yeah.
It felt good to finally be on a officially released Elephant King single. You know?
Oh, and you took the photo too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Took the photo on a vacation where it like I just sent him like a bunch of different ones, and he was like, "Yeah, that one's perfect." You know, you were gonna say something.
There was a conversation on what the cover should be, and we were like, I don't know, maybe like a road, and there's like trees, and then he's like, I have the perfect one, and then he sent that one over, so we pretty much chose that one from the beginning. That one's on film, right?
Yeah.
You could tell it was like, you know, not a digital, well, unless you put an effect on it, but it definitely looks like, you know, it came from like the 90s or somebody took a picture from like an old family album or something.
Yeah, I'm really glad that one's out, because it does represent all of us pretty well, you know.
Even like Mike's Mike's first Elephant King track. I think it's really great that we used his photo for the cover. Like
I didn't think about that.
I didn't think about that until just now, but like it's great to have stuff like that represent all of us.
Yeah.
As one.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, like, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I guess we would put the song Goat in there, which we're going to have everybody listen to the song Goat before we end the segment. But that one is legitimately so infectious. Like, I'll wake up and just be like, hey. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, Fez, get on my goddamn head. It's like 9:30 in the morning or something. But I often actually, the first couple times I heard it, I thought it was like a cover song or a radio song, because I'm like, I've heard this song before. I'm like, no, I haven't. It's just that fucking, like, when you hear it once, like your brain plays it subconsciously for like a decade in your brain. So you think it's already been there.
That was one of the holdovers from the other band that Nick and I were in. And I don't know, I feel like both good and bad. I've got this quality about writing to where, like, I'll write something that's really familiar and you're like, I've heard that before, and I'm like, sure, yeah, you probably have. I don't know where.
I think every musician feels that way, though.
Yeah, yeah, probably. But I feel like I almost like I like toe the line between like stealing something, and it's like whether or not I know where it's from, you know?
Yeah.
That's one of those songs where I'm like, I'm sure this is a thing. You know what I mean? Like this has to be something else. But I'm just gonna take this to. We're just gonna finish writing the song, and then now it's out. You know what I mean? Now it's ours. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've done the thing where, you know, a lot of musicians will do it where they write a song and then they go, ah, fuck, that's the same chord progression as, I don't know, Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers or some shit. And you're like, fuck, now I got to start over or something like that. But it's like, why? Like, it has nothing to do with that song. It's like, sure, it might be the same chord progression, similar melody or something, but you're not playing that fucking song. You're making it your own. You're doing something different. So I was always curious about, like, you know, what other people think about that. Cause I was always so self-conscious about, I don't want to get sued. I'm like, who the fuck's going to sue me? I'm not, nobody knows who the fuck I am. So there's no way, unless this song is like the lottery of all songs, that it's going to be ever heard by more than like a couple hundred people. But is there ever anything in like your guys' head where you're like, oh, I can't use that? Like, it's really fucking hard with drums. Cause like, what drum beat hasn't existed somewhere already? It's like fucking impossible, right?
With drums, it's really funny because I always felt like guitarists are like, this riff is mine. I'm not gonna let anybody have it. Like, this is me, this is my thing. And drummers are like sharing to the opposite degree, like 100%. It's like, oh, you do that here, I'm gonna do that here. Oh, that's so cool. And then it's just like this whole conversation about where we could fit the same groove into a million different songs. So I love stealing.
Yeah,
it's the best way to write new stuff.
And I think it's funny because like once it's out there, like you can't stop people from having heard it, right? So then it's going to create an inspiration. So like if I told you guys for the first time that like Mercury revolves around the sun, you'd never known that before, but now you know it. And now I'm saying it publicly, like, oh, now everybody knows that Mercury revolves around the sun. Okay, well, now I can tell people that, right? Like I can go out and tell people that I already know this. So why the fuck is it different in music, right? Like I learned how to do a blast beat. Cool. Now that person knows how to do it because of me or whatever. And it's just like shared information that eventually becomes inspiration in different ways, which I think when people get self-conscious about the music they make, it's probably because they lack the experience of playing their own music, which then kind of makes them self-conscious about anything that they write. So like I put out an album and some people say, oh, it sounds like Blink-182 or Screeching Weasel. I'm like, yeah, because that's pretty much all I fucking listened to for like 2 straight years was pop punk, right? So like that's what a lot of that stuff sounds like. But at the same time, the singing probably sounds almost exactly like Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, because that's where I learned how to kind of sing to guitar. Like that was some of the first early music that I started playing to. So I think it's interesting where, you know, you have to like toe the line, but at the same time, it's like, do you though? Like, as long as you're not legitimately just like creating the exact same song and recording it and saying it's ours, I think you have a lot of free license to create something. Now it's different, like for popular music where they just steal pieces of a song and put it in there and it's like, oh, that's our song now. It's like, no, you legitimately stole the sample from the recording and put it on your, you know, on your song or whatever. But yeah, so Fez, I don't think you have to worry about towing the line. I think you just make what the fuck you want.
Yeah. I think a lot of that stems from like music being treated as competition and like all art in general, right?
Yeah.
This is why like I have such an issue with the Grammys and that whole sort of thing, because it literally treats it as like who made the best album this year, right? Like, and that's the wrong way to look at it. And like you see the top and you see that that's how like art is treated at the very high end. So when you're down here in the local scene, you're starting out, you think that way, and you see like X band and Y band make these kind of songs, and you want to like, you think, oh, I need to write a song that's better than that, right? Like that is the worst way to look at it. And I think that stems from copying and that whole mindset. But like, it's really healthy to like, I feel like it's really healthy to explain your process and share that sort of information, you know, between people, or even ask questions like, hey, so like what's that chord progression, you know, like, or just learn it, you know, like listen to the song and learn it and change it up a little bit. Going back to like songs using the same chord progressions and stuff. I mean, like Under the Bridge and Basket Case. Those are the exact same chord progressions.
Yeah.
Completely different songs.
Well,
right?
pop punk legitimately has one chord progression. It's like like if you're doing bar chords or power chords, it's like, the A chord or the A minor chord, whatever, then the E chord, and then you just move that up and down, like in the same like T letter, like the letter T kind of structure. And it's like, that's every fucking pop punk song you've ever heard in your life. And I'm like, that's why I can play it so well, because it's very, very easy.
The tools for creating music are simultaneously so minimal and so vast that I don't know. I think the conversation is like should be steered more towards where Mike was going with it. That it's not a competition.
Yeah, very cool. So I think that's pretty much all the questions I have for you guys. But what's coming up for Elephant King this year in 2023? I know you guys have shows, probably got some new music lined up, but let everybody know what's kind of going on for you guys.
So it's April. We have our next one is April 27th at the Taverna Costera, the rooftop in the Arts District. And then that one we're sharing the stage with White Noise, Pure Sport, Hunter's Briefcase, and a couple other local artists. And then shortly after that, we're playing with I think we're playing with Thelma and the Sleaze at the Sand Dollar, like May 2nd or something like that.
Very cool.
So those are our next two coming up within the next couple weeks. We're in talks about doing a larger release. Thus far, we've done singles and like B-sides. We've got most of our discography released. There's enough left for maybe like an EP, like a small one, like 3-4 songs. That's kind of what we're in talks for now. All kind of depends. I mean, we're all in other projects. We all have other things to do. But
wait, you guys aren't millionaires that just record music all day?
Yeah, I know, that'd be great. Yeah, if our full-time jobs could just be recording original music, that'd be awesome.
Even then, we're a part of so many different things.
Yeah. So that's kind of in talks right now. But the next definitive thing is that we're gonna have fun all the time. Right?
The next thing you'll see Elephant King doing is having fun right after this.
Yeah, but no official dates or number of tracks is set yet.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So obviously, guys, make sure to go to the show notes below this episode. Follow these guys on social media. If they're gone in a year, they're probably because another band that they're in blew up and they don't have time for Elephant King anymore. But during this time, you definitely want to check them out because they're fucking awesome. Their music is great. Follow them. Go listen to them on streaming, wherever whatever you stream your music. And before we go, I'm going to play the song Goat from Elephant King. And I guarantee you won't get this song out of your head for like a week. Do I have your guys' full permission to play this song live on the podcast so that way everybody can hear it?
Yeah.
Totally.
Cool. So here's the song Goat from Elephant King to play us into the break. And make sure to check out all the links, like I said. Go follow them on social media, and we'll be back right after this. running your own music career is incredibly difficult. Trying to get people to like, share, comment, listen, follow, it's all just overwhelming. Most musicians give up before they ever achieve success, and that's the worst. If you're looking for a better way to grow your music career, head to DIYrockcareer.com for some absolutely free training. It costs you nothing, and it could be the difference between hitting your goals and quitting your dream. Go to DIYrockcareer.com today by clicking the link below this episode.
Then I lost my way.
Welcome back to the Powered by Rock podcast, everybody. I'm here with Danish rock music journalist Karina Selvig, who writes for such publications as rockfreaks.net, The Dying Scene, New Noise Magazine, as well as contributing as a co-host over at Punk Rock Radar. Seems like she's really freaking busy. I don't know how she has all this time to do all this stuff, but she definitely knows how to stay organized and get it all done. But hey, Karina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Isaac. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we've been kind of chatting over Instagram and email a couple times about different things, but I don't know how you do so much stuff. I mean, I obviously I run one thing, but it's kind of spread out into 10 different versions of things. So I definitely know how to stay busy as well, but I have not thought to like work with so many different people like you have. So it's pretty interesting. How did that even start about? Like, how did you actually get into rock music journalism? And then how did you kind of start working with all the publications that you're working with right now?
Oh, one of the most, well, that's a frequently asked question. So I met editor-in-chief Petteri for Rock Freaks at a pregame for Lagwagon concert in August. And after we'd been to that, I reached out and went like, I like you. Can I contribute? Because I've always been interested in music. So it was one of those. And I feel like one thing led to the other, and everything in the end just seemed to sum up, because suddenly it was like emailing back and forth with New Noise as well, and amazing people, no doubt about it. And I think what really made people notice everything was definitely putting in the time with Punk Rock Radar, which is so funny. And I think that's just where it went from then on. And then now it's become a thing. I quit my day job to do this full time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I can't even imagine you have time for a regular job. So I was just going to ask, are you still working at this point? But yeah, it sounds like you've actually been able to start writing for a career now.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity that New Noise gave me on that one. And they've been so amazing at delegating different pitches and listening to mine and working with me. So I'm very, very thankful for being able to do something I love every day now.
Yeah, and obviously not all of these publications are located in Denmark, which is where you're residing, right? That's where you live, is Denmark, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you kind of work with them on a global scale? Obviously, there's a lot of room for remote work out there in the world, but obviously, like a U.S.-based publication might know more about U.S. bands, or a European one might know more about European bands. Do you kind of have to spread your knowledge across everything and just try to dig into everything all at once?
That's actually a funny question, because my particularly music taste was actually very American when it began. And it was first in late 19, where I started noticing more of the European acts. Not that I didn't notice them, but I started paying more attention to them. So I definitely think one of the benefits that I bring to the table, or not benefits, but yeah, maybe, is the knowledge I do have from the Danish and European scene. And I think that's interesting, because we can all learn from each other. Like, they discover new bands and they're located somewhere and go like, this band, listen to it. If it's something for you. And normally and typically it is, but it's definitely one of these where you do sit and research a lot more. You do start stalking bands' Instagram to see when they've if they've ever been outside of America and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's so many different kinds of bands as well. I mean, it's not just punk music that you cover for all these publications either. It's kind of a bigger, you do more than just punk music, right? So I know Punk Rock Radar is specifically punk. They do kind of dig into a little bit of a wide net when I say punk, because some of the bands I wouldn't probably classify as punk, but they still fit them in there somehow. But then you do obviously other music. So what kind of genre, like, is it it's just rock music, I assume at this point, right? But like, you're not covering like pop and hip hop and stuff like that, are you?
No, those are guilty pleasures. Those are more reviewing them and analyzing them with friends at this point that are also on the scene. So it's very funny that we're so heavy into the punk scene and rock scene and metal scene that we are all like talking about Taylor Swift and trying to analyze lyrics or Skrillex and stuff like that. It's very entertaining. And then it ends up in these long conversations that really gives you some insight that you can actually pull into the different genres as well. Like there's different types of rap, apparently. I didn't know this. There's something called emo rap.
That's funny.
And that was for me a different side, because sometimes you'd like think rap is rap, but
is that just rap, Drake and Bad Bunny in that kind of subgenre?
No, it's his name is Eco, and there's Nothing Nowhere. Please don't shoot me in the comments because I didn't know his name, but I was so surprised how many subgenres there are to every genre. Yeah. And I was very taken aback when we started over in rap and hip hop, and I was like, oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah, and obviously people well versed in those music scenes. I mean, it's funny because it's like living on your own island when you specifically only focus on a couple of genres, right? It's like you don't have to worry about, like, I don't listen to country western. I never liked it. I grew up in the Midwest where that was what the main I guess genre of music was, and never liked it. Never really listened to the music. I never got along with the people who did listen to the music, so I just kind of left it to them, and they could have it, and I'll take my punk and my indie music and listen to that. So it, like, when I see somebody on TV and they're like, oh, this is a famous singer, I'm like, I've never heard of that person. I don't know who that is. I don't know what kind of music they make. And I'm like, I'm in music and I still have never heard of this person. It's weird.
That's so funny, because I have a friend, he used to review for Rock Freaks, but he stopped a few years ago, and he started deep diving into other genres. And every Friday he does a post like where he updates you on singles that have been released and albums by different artists. And there are some times where I'm like, where do you find these names? Like, this, what is this? And I've done the mistake so many times of asking him, and he's like, and then he'll spend 3 hours just telling me about this single, and I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I keep falling into it. I'm like, okay, I need to stop now.
Yeah, it's one of those rabbit holes where it's like, oh, well, I was listening to Spotify, but then I heard about another band, and then I went over and checked out their Wikipedia page or their fan page or whatever. Then I started looking at this other band who they were also on tour with, and I'm like, then like 2 hours later, you're like, how the hell did I get to this point? Now I'm like listening to a band that's like an Antarctic band. I'm like, who the hell like starts a band in Antarctica? But whatever, I guess I'm listening to it now.
I didn't. Antarctica, I'm so sorry for this one. I didn't know they had bands, but now I know. No.
Unless there's a bunch of scientists down there like rocking out that we don't know about.
I would definitely be on board with that.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
It's like they're rapping about, or they're rocking out about like
penguins,
snowstorms or something. It's like, okay, yeah. Haven't seen the sun for 6 months. Yeah, it makes sense. But I know there's like bands from like Alaska and like Finland and stuff. I mean, you're pretty far north as well. So, I mean, there's plenty of people who would have the similar experience to a band from Antarctica, I suppose, except for they're just in a barren wasteland of like snow and ice.
I was speaking to some friends, and he had just been to the Faroe Islands, where he's from, and he came back with like, "Oh, I just went to the best metal concert in the Faroe Islands," and I was like, "Eh?" And he goes like, "Yeah, it's such a wide music scene. You should try and visit." And I'm like, actually, now I'm very intrigued to go there just to listen to the music, because sometimes I'll admit it, I can be oblivious to things that happen in much smaller places. I know Denmark's small. I get it. We're like 500 people that show up to every concert, and it's the same people, and we'll say hi. But like, I never thought about that for Faroe Islands. I honestly thought that they all moved to Denmark, because I've met plenty of people from the Faroe Islands that have made bands in Denmark.
Yeah.
Or joined bands. So me being oblivious and a total dumbass, sorry, I just went like, okay, well, the fuck do I know?
Yeah.
And I started listening to it, and it's really good. They make really good music there. But I mean,
don't worry, there's going to be a lot of Americans listening to this podcast that are like, what the fuck is Denmark? Where's that on a map?
It's not in Canada.
Yeah, they'll be like, why does she speak English? Like, what's the official language of Denmark?
Danish. It sounds like a potato that's stuck in your mouth.
Yeah, the funny thing about Danish, the only thing that most people in America will know that's Danish is we have like these donuts essentially that are called Danishes, and that's what people will know when they say Danish. Like, oh, have you ever heard of a Danish rock band? They're like, I don't understand. Are they bakers? Like,
I mean, everybody's probably heard of Volbeat over in America.
I don't think so. I would highly that would be unlikely. I mean, that's a band that I've only heard of like once or twice, probably.
I will go on record and say I might get banned from their concerts for this, but it's fine if they ever see it. Volbeat is the Danish Five Finger Death Punch and Nickelback if they had very annoying children.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of those bands in America too. So like, I they're like, oh, let's just make this music, and then somehow they're famous. And I'm like, I don't even know how anybody likes this, but okay.
That's how I feel about Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah.
I might get hate from my neighbors for this if they see this. I have supportive neighbors, so I'm
going to do a targeted ad to like the 500 meters around your IP address, and just make sure that everybody who sees this, or like who knows you, sees this.
He'll be knocking at 5 a.m. He's seen them like 10 times or something ridiculous. I was like, that's way too much. Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah. Probably the most I've ever seen any band is like 3 or 4 times, even though I'd like to go check them out every time. But I'm like, I can't just go to every concert that these guys play. I'm like, that's insane. Like, that's way too much money to spend on that stuff.
But in the same way, it's like, if they have this supporting act that you'll know will never really come, I think that's where it gets worth it. Yeah.
Especially if it's like more than one. But like, if it's like, like a band's like, I don't know. Let's just say, for example, like Black Keys or whatever. Like, I've seen them a couple times, but if they came with like, bands that I'm not a fan of necessarily, I would definitely not spend the money. But if it's like two good bands in the bill, I'm like, is that worth $150? Maybe, because that's probably what it's going to cost me. But,
I mean, maybe because you have dynamic pricing over there. So
yeah, we get screwed a lot of the times because people are shitbags and they just buy all these tickets up and then resell them too. So yeah, that's a big problem here.
Yeah, I'm really glad that that's not in Denmark yet.
Yeah.
It'll probably happen in a year or something, but right now we get to enjoy the good side of it. Mostly because we do, like when Blink was announced in Copenhagen, it was one of those, do we really want to buy the tickets? They're like around $80. That's not a lot. Yeah. But it was one of those. They've supposed to be visited twice, and they've canceled both times. So it's one of those. It's such a gamble. But I think in the end we all bought tickets.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot cheaper than my ticket. Like they don't come to Las Vegas as part of their own tour. They're coming as part of the When We Were Young Fest. So yeah, I had to buy tickets to that, which were much more expensive than $80.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that lineup this year though.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, even I was sitting there going, I wonder if I ask nicely, could I go?
Yeah. I'm hoping that I also can get a press pass, but we'll see. If so, then I'll probably sell my ticket to one of my friends or something so they can go, but it's going to be crazy. Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be looking into getting a press pass for that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm going to spend $1,500 on hotels and flights just to get there for one concert. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking like, oh, yeah, America's not that far away. How long would it take me to travel to Las Vegas? Probably like 8 hours.
Yeah, that's about right.
Plus some, yeah. And then this hotels and stuff. Yeah. I don't see a problem in that, actually. I do it. But I get good ideas like that all the time.
Yeah. I had to stop myself from like traveling so much this year because last year I think I spent like $3,600 on just doing shows out of town. I'm like, that's a lot of money for like out of town shows, and it was only like 6 of them or something like that. So I'm like, $600 a pop for hotels, tickets, gas, maybe a flight or whatever. I'm like, that's getting expensive. Like, I wouldn't pay $600 for any rock show, but I'm sitting here paying it for like local bands to play, and I'm watching them. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. Like, I'm going to England in May to Slam Dunk, and I was like looking at it, and I went, yeah, this is already. If I have to do this every time, I think I need to work harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Or start like say you're going to run somebody's merch table while you're there so you can make some extra money or something. I'll only work when the bands are not playing, but I'll be watching and then come back to the merch table.
I mean, yeah, why not? I'll even make sure you have fresh water. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it could have been worse. Like England's an hour away.
Yeah.
But I think what it is it's Slam Dunk.
Yeah.
And NoFX is playing the next day.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's going to be, I mean, that'd be a big weekend. So hotels and stuff would be pretty expensive, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know that I at least have a 7-day deadline on Slam Dunk, but I think I have like 48 hours on NoFX because it's a normal concert. And it's
yeah, because it's technically like a festival, but it's not because it's just their headlining farewell tour, right? Yeah,
and they have 4 great bands coming, like Anti-Flag, Get Dead, Lagwagon. Can't remember the last one.
Yeah. A bunch of deadbeat bands. Nobody's ever heard of those guys.
Oh yeah. Lagwagon, who didn't even go and see them in August.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, to kind of open people's minds, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here, kind of about what you are interested in, because obviously, people don't know that much about you, but also they want to learn more about, or I hope that they want to learn more about other bands from other places other than the United States or whatever. But let's just say, like, for people who are struggling to find good music outside of the United States, give me like your top 3 European rock bands that other listeners should check out right now.
So right now I'm into Martha. They're from England. I'm into, of course, a French band, indie punk called Topsy Turvies.
Okay,
which,
I know them.
Yeah, excellent music. And the third one, I think we're gonna go a bit more over in a heavy side. I went to see this band called Heilung in October, and it's this Viking music, and it's very you get put into like this trance like state, and you're captivated and you feel the music and everything, and it's so powerful, and I like to use it a lot. when I'm working out and stuff, because it exactly makes sure you focus a lot more on yourself and your own well-being, because you're so caught up in
Well,
yourself.
that, and you also have to defeat your enemies and burn their village down, right?
Exactly. We have to make sure that the sacrifices are done right.
I'll have to get the spelling for that band name, because there's no way I'm going to be able to figure that out from just how you say it. So, yeah. But so then, as far as your obviously your European side, what are some of the American or maybe North American, including Canada? What's some of your favorite bands to check out in North America?
Belvedere.
Okay.
If you don't know them, they put on an amazing show. They are nice guys. I have a vinyl downstairs. I'm number one fan over here. I think it's good. I discovered them in 2016.
Well, I think they were already around before then. It wasn't like you were the first.
They
person.
were.
Yeah.
They were. But a lot of people don't really know them. They aren't that known, considering, which surprises me. And American bands right now.
I just want to point out, because I always used to say this too, and I'm like, I discovered this band. I'm like, I didn't fucking discover this band.
No.
I first learned of this band way after they were already probably famous for other reasons. But that's how I start saying it now. Like, I first learned of this band when I was a moron, and they've been out for 20 years later, and I finally figured it out.
And I actually think that Belvedere has been around for nearly 20 years, maybe 15. I was like, well, I learned of them in 2016.
Yeah.
And I have not regretted that rabbit hole at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good music.
And I know Casey Lewis, he does like production for a lot of like the bands in Canada too. So a lot of punk bands and stuff. He's like producing their albums. So
yeah, Casey, he's so sweet. Another band is I'm currently listening to. I find them very funny. They're called Waterpox, and
what is that?
Pop rock.
Like pup, P-U-P? Is that what you're talking about?
No, like Waterpox, and it's pop rock.
Okay.
I just find their lyrics so funny. Apparently the lead singer has this thing where he sees words and colors, and they just went with it. Like, this is their niche, as you can say. Like, yeah,
it's like very impressionism or something almost.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, he dyes his hair after the mood of the album. I find that very funny. And yeah. And of course, because you mentioned them, it's always my small guys, Pop. That aren't small. Very big now. Yeah,
they are. It's interesting because, like, I was talking with John from Punk Rock Radars. Like, I don't know how Pup got so big. I'm like, I feel like they were like just a regional band, and then all of a sudden they released their last album, and now everybody knows who they are. I'm like, don't even know how that happened. Kind of similarly like Turnstile, but Turnstile, I just feel like they've been kind of so active for so long that it just was eventually going to happen. But yeah, Pup, I've never seen them live. Maybe I have to go check them out live to really totally get it.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to see it live. Oh my God, my body hurt for a week after their concert.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're very good.
That's good to know. Yeah, I'll have to check them out. Unfortunately, every time I see a tour announcement, they do not come to Las Vegas. So I'll have to wait until they do. Hopefully they'll team up with some team or like a couple of bands or something, or another band that can actually make it worth their while to come here. But yeah.
I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to call them out for neglecting Las Vegas. I mean, Pop, come on.
There's definitely Las Vegas venues that you could play here. It's not like you're only going to attract a couple hundred people.
No, you won't be playing in front of 10. You'll probably be playing in front of 1,000.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So one question I have for you is, since you started doing some of this rock music stuff, what's kind of the coolest experience you've been part of since putting your efforts behind music journalism?
Definitely getting to know bands, but also the record label Nasty Cut Records, which is originally a Greek record label. The founder, he's still in Greece, but Andrew has taken over 95%, maybe 90%. And he's in Denmark, or actually right now he's in Greece on vacation.
Normally
he's in Denmark. and yeah, I think that music journalism also made me discover something about myself, that while it's cool being able to review bands and interview bands, there's also the other side, which is you have the opportunity to really help a band that you enjoy, and you get to push them and make them feel seen and heard through the record label.
Yeah.
And which is why for the record label's 5th anniversary, we're putting on a music festival. Or when I say we, it's 100% Andrew that's funded that one. Goodbye savings. And he's managed to put together a really good team where collected 5 people, and he makes sure we're all heard on if we should have added more bands or if we shouldn't have, which is funny because we have now ended up with 20 bands and 3 acoustic sets. I don't know how that happened.
Everybody wants to be part of it now.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere it's amazing to be able to put on a festival, because I've always wanted to be a part of that. But like seeing how it is from the inside, I don't understand how Andrew can do it sometimes. I know I'm annoying. I'll be working till 2:00 in the morning, and then I'll send him a message and be like, I have this idea. And then a few hours later, he'll wake up and he'll be like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, I wrote you at 2 a.m. You do not have, or 2 at night, and you do not have a problem with this. Cool, I'll keep doing that. But I think one of the best things that has come from music journalism is definitely being able to share your voice.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I went on another podcast and
whose podcast? Don't tell me about that.
I'm pretty sure it was Punk Kid, and we spoke, and we ended up speaking about how, no offense, how a lot of punk bands are very political active, and but the thing is because many of them are men, sometimes it overshadows the female punk bands that are trying to get their voices heard on matters that we know more about. And it's it's cool to have allies, but we also have to remember to make room for each other. Yeah. In this. Chris, number 2.
Yeah, and that makes a good point, because I just saw a post the other day from, I think it was from Julia Louis-Dreyfus or some comedian, and she had a sign that said, if men could get pregnant, there'd be as many abortion clinics as ATMs or something like that. And I was like, yeah. You're not wrong.
But I wouldn't have ever delved into my own political standings if it wasn't because I already had my voice, and I felt confident in my voice because I'd been reviewing and figuring out who I was as a reviewer. And so that's another amazing aspect of music journalism. It's not always all about music.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, you get to bring a world of perspective to something that somebody like, myself, I'm an American male in United States, Las Vegas, right, would never even consider. Like, it wouldn't even be what I was listening to the album for, or whatever. It'd be a completely different perspective. That I think the more voices, the better, and the more influences, the better, because then you get a unique experience that you would never have before. If it's all the same voice and all the same it's like an echo chamber where you're just like, okay, I don't even know why I'm reading this, because it's the exact same thing I was already thinking. It's like whatever.
And I think that's why I discovered that I was a part of the problem a few
You
weeks
definitely
ago.
are. No, I'm just kidding.
I discovered that most of my interviews had been male dominated. And I was thinking about it. I went, I'm a woman and I speak about women issues, and because I'm about it. But it was like, I'm not using my platform to promote female musicians or female punk bands. And it was one of those, wow, that is probably the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, and in speaking that, I think in the six, actually Martha, I think is they have a female in that band, right? So I was going to say of the six, I think you only named one, maybe zero, but I could have one female fronted band. So it happens, but there's not nearly as many female bands out there as male bands, but they're rising. I mean, there's definitely a lot more now than there were 15, 20 years ago. I mean, especially in the punk scene, it's like there's probably a good 25% of the punk scene is female now, which is pretty awesome.
I think England is doing a really great job with that, to be honest. And so is Denmark. And a lot of other countries and America. But it's one of those, if it wasn't because I had seen someone I knew or someone I was a fan of before going on tour with these, I would have never checked them out. And that's how Sewer Cats and Petrol Girl actually became such a wow experience for me. And it's funny because it's something I have to get better at as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I try to make note of like every time that I, hear, especially like interesting voices in music in general, right? So like, that's why I have, you'll see pretty much anybody from any background from different countries on this podcast, and, different genders, transgender, like pretty much everybody that I can possibly interview that has a different voice is people that I'm interested in talking to. It's not like I'm just going to sit here and talk to my buddies from high school and be talking about, the same shit that we talked about in high school. It's like, that's a pretty stale conversation. Things have changed a lot in 23 years since I graduated. So,
I imagine that, but it's again one of those like, let's all just rise. I mean, next time try and get a hold of Mannequin Pussy.
Oh yeah,
amazing band, so funny from what I've heard. They should be very funny. But that was a heavy subject.
Yeah, no. It's how it moves in and out here. Like sometimes you get a little more interesting conversation just by asking a simple question. So that's always good. Well, and I know that you spoke about the festival. I don't want to kind of undershadow that because that's one of the reasons why you're here. So talk to me. Obviously, you got that. I think it's just called the Nasty Cuts Festival, right, or something like that. The Nasty Cuts Records Festival. And I think one of the reasons why we even started talking was because Forever Unclean was up for breakthrough artist or best new artist or something like that for one of the awards, the Powered by Rock podcast, or for the Powered by Rock Music Awards. And you had mentioned like, hey, I know these guys, they're awesome. I'm like, fuck yeah, they're awesome. Like that was one of the better albums of the year, obviously. So obviously talk to me. I think they're playing in that festival as well, right?
They are. They're under Nasty Cut Records label. And I know that Andrew and Leo and Les and Souls, they have a very special special friendship. And basically these guys would do anything for each other. And knowing the guys, they are so amazing. And I'm so glad that they are playing the festival. I mean, sure, we joke around that they play the same venue all the time, but it's still so cool that they went like, yeah, we're in. And they're going on tour with Bin Boy that's also playing at the festival.
Nice.
So I'm very happy for those guys. They deserve everything. They deserve so much.
And that festival I think is in October from memory, right?
No, it's in May.
Oh, it's in May.
It's
I don't know why I think it was so far away.
It's in 2 months. It's between the 18th and the 20th of May, actually, and it's very exciting.
Nice.
We nearly have everything under control.
And hopefully the snow is all melted and everything by then.
I don't even know, dude. Like, it's supposed to snow next week, and I'm like, it's April.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got my first mosquito bite today, so I'm like,
Oh, that's a good sign. Those bastards are coming back. It's probably warm enough for everything to happen.
I was definitely very happy. I had to write to my friends, I got my first mosquito bite, and they were like, this is weird, but we're happy.
Yeah. It's a good way to gauge the climate and upcoming temperature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where are we? Are we snowsuits, or are we light buffer jacket now?
And last thing I think that's probably worth mentioning is just if you can give me one good song recommendation of something you've heard lately, or an album, or just a new artist you think people want to check out. Let me know one good recommendation from yourself.
Okay. I have been listening a lot to a indie artist called Samia. And her album is called, I think it's called Honey, actually. Samia, yeah, it's called Honey. And it's very, very good. The song I would suggest, if you're into like deep music with where your brain starts turning, I'd recommend Breathing Song. It's very sad, but it's
Breathing Song.
Okay. It's very beautiful.
Interesting. Just making a note so I don't have to sit here and try to figure out what that was by scrolling through the episode later. Very cool. I'll have to check it out because I've never even heard of. It's Samia, you said?
Yeah. Her father is an actor or a musician.
Okay.
But she like ripped loose and made her own. I didn't even know her father was an actor or musician. I was like, God damn it, this voice. This is something different from Taylor Swift and Miley Cyrus. When people bring up female musicians, stop bringing them up, guys. There's a lot of others.
Well, that's all I got for you today, and I'm glad we got to talk because it's been a while. I look forward to you obviously growing in the music journalism scene and probably having 10 more jobs by the next time I talk to you, which will probably be a couple days or whatever. So yeah.
I mean, you never know. Maybe next month I'll be interviewing you. I mean,
yeah. I'm some small band somewhere. No, I don't have a band yet, but maybe one day. Again, it'll be a while.
We could start a band. We could have like a Zoom band. I have drums downstairs. Nice.
Yeah, I've got a whole musical thing over here that you can't see off camera with drums and guitars and stuff. But I only get to play when I'm not paying attention to my 2-year-old son, and that's very rarely.
Oh, he can join in.
Yeah. Yesterday I had to pick up a guitar because I'm like, you're driving me nuts. I'm going to play some guitar. And then he just kept like asking me questions and touching me while I was like, it's like trying to grab my hand while I'm playing. I'm like, stop, what are you doing?
I remember that phase. That's how my son ended up with the drum kit.
Yeah. He's got one too. He likes it. He just doesn't play it as much as he used to because he's got too many toys now, but he'll get back into it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And then they never stop. My son's 6 now and he wants to be a musician.
Nice.
So, and I really want to thank Casey Lewis for that because he gave my son signed drumsticks.
Oh, nice.
And they are the most precious possession he owns. No one's allowed to
don't touch these. If they ever get lost, I'll kill everybody in the house.
he couldn't find them once and he went bananas. Like I was surprised. I'm like, oh shit, I can't get new ones for you. Yeah. I don't know how to get, I could write Casey, but I mean like that would be weird. Hey, my son lost the drumsticks that you signed for him. Can you send some new ones?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Kids. Pain in my ass, but yeah. I always tell people it's like a dog. Like I've had 2 dogs. I'm like, I'll never get another dog and I'll never have another kid. One's too many.
I have 2. Yeah. Can confirm.
Yeah. Awesome.
but-
Thanks for stopping by. And like I was saying, make sure to go check out all the links to Karina's work. Go check out what she's doing. If you're in Denmark, near Denmark, or want to go to Denmark, it's not probably that crazy of an idea, but you could go check out the Nasty Cut Records Festival in May. I would do it if I didn't have a child. I'd be like, yeah, let's go travel. Let's go to Denmark. That's great. I've never been. I've only been to Germany and a couple other countries in Europe, but never actually made it up to Denmark. But that'd be cool. So go check out the show notes below to see all the links to all of our work and everything. So you can check out that stuff there. And remember, guys, the Powered by Rock podcast is powered by our listeners. To show us some support, please be sure to subscribe and share the podcast on social media. If you're only listening to the podcast, you can go check out the full video interview on our YouTube and Spotify channels as well. Also, if you like reading and you want to check out some of our awesome content, maybe we'll have Karina guest on one of our articles at some point. You can go to our poweredbyrock.com and you can check out our merch, our gear, anything else that you'd like to see and see what's good there. That's our show for today. And I just want to say thanks again to Karina. I'll see you soon for the next episode. Until then, rock on.